Shalom, Kahala Yahweh, Bashem Yashayah, Bashem Rabbah. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, who are the house of David, reborn again in this generation. And Shalom to the 130 Yashayah, who today were known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about some of the latest events that are going to lead to World War III, or what the Bible refers to as Armageddon. But before we get into that, let's read this. This is Isaiah 13:4. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Yahweh Bashem Yashayah of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. So in this scripture, it's a future prophecy that Isaiah is viewing, and he sees or he hears a loud noise of a multitude on the mountains. Now, when it says here on the mountains, this is akin to the governments of the world, right? And basically, so you have pretty much all the governments of the world, making noise, right? Like raising up a rabble, right? And who are they raising up a rabble against? Well, none other than the so-called white man, right? The Edomites of the Bible, the people who are actually ruling the world. Okay. Now, it tells you here that the Lord, right? He mustereth the host of the battle, right? The Lord right now is putting together the armies of the world to come to this great battle, which is to take place at the end of the world, right? And that battle is going to take part in the valley of Jehoshaphat, right? Which is the valley of God's judgment, which is pretty much right outside of the land of Israel, right? Pretty much kind of where like you have Israel and Syria, basically right now where you're seeing all that conflict and all these armies basically building up. Well, recently, satellites took pictures of a fake U.S. aircraft carrier in China's desert used for target practice. Now, this is something that was recently found in China, right? Here's a zoomed in picture, right? And it's located here in the west northern part of China in its desert area, right? And what is it? Well, it's a life-size U.S. aircraft carrier, right? And it's being used for target practice. Now, why is that? Why are the Chinese targeting or using a U.S. aircraft carrier as a target? Well, if you've been following the details of the coming World War III, then you understand that China has developed weapons that are aircraft killers, right? Or aircraft carrier killers, that is, right? Because when you understand the U.S. Army's or the U.S. military's force, it relies heavily on its air force, right? Its airplane power. And that airplane power, largely comes from its aircraft carriers. This is why the U.S. holds the most aircraft carriers in the entire world. I think it's like they have more aircraft carriers than the rest of the world combined. And that's because they are the ruling power upon the earth today, right? This is the blessing that these people, these Edomites, the so-called Caucasian race, received, via their forefather, Esau, right? That they would live by the sword. Now, let's go and read this article. It says, China's military has constructed mock-ups of the U.S. warships in a remote desert missile testing range as training targets amid the threat of conflict in the South China Sea or the Taiwan Straits, as as we refer to it as. The U.S. Naval Institute said satellite images by Maxar Technologies, Inc., a U.S. firm with more than 80 satellites in low Earth orbit, show mock-ups of a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier with two Arleigh-Burke-class guided missile destroyers at the test facility in the Roikwing area in Zhejiang's Taklamakan Desert. This new range shows that China continues to focus on anti-carrier capabilities, with an emphasis on U.S. Navy warships, the USNI said. And right here you see these are the mock-ups of those destroyers. Right here's the base that they're operating out of. And here's another aircraft, U.S. aircraft carrier design. Right, it says the signs are clear that China is focusing on its anti-ship missile program managed by the People's Liberation Army Rocket Force. Right, and this is kind of like a zoomed out. Let's actually take a look at that. So here's the overall satellite image, and it shows you that this place has different aircraft carriers in different locations, right? So that's a trip, man. So you see, China's getting ready, man, for this war. Like just like when you see boxers training before a big fight, you know, China right now is training. And what is America doing? Well, America is freaking worrying about getting trans rights and LGBT rights, you know, passed in the military, man. And worrying about these mandates while China is out there, you know, practicing going to war, right? And not only that, but what else is going on, man? It says satellite photos raise concerns of Russian military buildup near Ukraine. Right now, why is that a big deal? Well, Ukraine is basically backed right now by the U.S. Right? It says Maxar collected high-resolution satellite imagery on November 1st that reveals the presence of ground forces on the northern edge of Yalnar, western Russia. Reports that the Russians are moving military hardware from 250 kilometers from the border have raised eyebrows in Washington. The Ukrainian forces have deployed combat drones along the battle lines that separate them from the pro-Russian separatists in the Dobna region. The front lines of the conflict, a standoff stretching hundreds of miles from northern Ukraine to the Sea of Azov, have barely moved in 5 years. On Monday, U.S. Defense Forces spokesman Admiral John Kirby said that the Pentagon was aware of public reports of unusual Russian military activity near the Ukraine. So you see that? This is the first time that there's been movement of the military on this, you know, protested border in 5 years. So you can tell something's going on, right? And if you look on the U.S. side, the Babylon the Great side, man, it tells you here, it says the Kremlin, which is Russian, it's like Pentagon, the Kremlin, ongoing U.S. NATO warship drills in the Black Sea aim to contain Russia, right? So Russia is basically pissed that the U.S., right, and NATO the NATO system, right, which is the beast, right, are conducting practices in the Black Sea, right? And when you look at the Black Sea, that's right where on the doorstep of Russia, man. You see, it says the U.S. Navy forces Europe, Africa, U.S. 6th Fleet. This is what they posted, man. It says U.S. Navy, the U.S. Mont Whitney, and the USS Porter sailed in formation with the Bulgarian frigate BGS Gordy yesterday in the Black Sea, right? And that was on the 5th. So you see, these Edomites and these on both sides, along with Moab, the Chinese, they're all, you know, starting to prep for this war, man. While the world is crumbling, World War III is marching forward. So, you know, what does the Bible have to say about that? This is Joel 3:10. beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. You see, the Lord, He right now is putting it in the heart of these what were once weaker nations to build up their forces, to build up their weaponry, and to ultimately build up their nations to go to war. War with who? Well, Babylon the Great, that is. And this is all happening because we are living in the end days, people. Pretty soon, we will be upon that World War III, which is going to happen right before the Lord comes back. This is Revelations 11 and 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Right? So I'm telling you, Akim, we're there. Right? We're living in the last seconds and last days. So, just want to give an update on what's going on the war front. So hopefully this video was edifying. So until next time, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bashem, Yashayah, Bashem, Rukak, Radash, double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect. Shalom.